Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on the video. What I'm going to be going over today is yet another archery related mobile phone app. This one's called Artemis Lite, and it is basically designed to be a one-stop shop for keeping track of everything to do with your archery career. Now it does come in a premium and a coached version, and as you'll see as we go through the app, some of the features are blanked out unless of course you upgrade to either of those two. Now when you open the app, you'll notice that it comes up with Archer as the first tab, and you've only got two options here. You've got personal best and you've got form change. Now if you click on the form change icon, you'll basically come to a page where you can enter in any form changes that you do when you shoot your bow. So if you click on the little help icon at the top, you can see that it says the form change list shows all your form changes ordered in time with the latest form change on top. A form change is anything you like to change and is worth writing down so you can later compare performances in a before-after comparison. Form changes can be anything: a technical change in your shooting form, habitual change, different clothing or footwear, different preparation, nutrition, etc. Later, when you have collected some data, you can use a filter to select shots before and after your form change. So basically you can keep track of how your form changes affect your shooting, either for the better or for worse. So what I've done here is just an example form change. Basically, when you click the plus icon, you'll notice it pops up with this page here, and you can type in a title for the form change. So in this one, I just used change release date as an example. You can use the date as well, and in the notes you can say what it is that you've changed. So change from stand element to stand perfects in this example. So once you come out of the form change icon, you'll notice that you've got your personal best down the bottom right. Now the calendar and the ISA are blanked out by silver and gold icons, and those would be unlocked to you once you spend a little bit of money and upgrade to those icons. At the moment, if you click on the calendar, it basically just tells you that it shows you summaries of your competition and practice and how many arrows you shot each day. And if you click on the ISA one, it tells you that the instant self-assessment will help you and your coach find trends in your condition as an archer. How do you feel before a competition or before a practice session? Did you sleep well? What will be your focus for that session? Do you feel fit or do you have muscle ache? By answering these questions once a day, you can find trends. So the only thing on this page other than form change that you have access to is personal best, and when we click on that, I have put a dummy score in here. So basically what we can see there is that the highest skill level is 101.4, so it's kind of like got a rating system built into it, and then how many arrows you've shot each particular day. Now once again, if we click on the little help icon, it tells you the personal best list shows all your personal best match scores and a round score, as well as the highest skill level and highest volume of arrows shot in a day. A highest score in training shows up in green, a personal best in competition shows up in red, special personal best such as highest volume shot in a day shows up in blue. If the PB is recent, so 7, 14, 30 or 90 days, depending on what you set up in the settings, this is indicated with new. So if we go back there, basically you can see here, once we click on higher skill level, it shows you the match, and you can go into the match and actually have a look at what it is that you've done. So also in personal best, it did have the volume of arrows shot for the day. And once again, it goes back to that match. Now the reason why it isn't showing you any more than that is because technically I haven't finished the match, as I haven't put in all of the scores for that particular match. The next tab that you have is setup, and basically before you can do your bow setup or your quiver setup, you need to go into bow or sight down the bottom and set up what it is that you are actually using. So if we go into the sight setup, basically you can see here there's a generic recurve. It also has a generic compound, but I edited that to be the Shibuya Ultima CPX. So you can either click the plus icon at the top right, which will give you a blank field to fill in like this, and you can put in the name of your sight, your elevation, either clicks per turn or millimeters per turn, and the same for the windage, and you can put in any notes that you want to add in as well. We'll just go back there. I'll go into the Shibuya Artemis CPX, which happens to be the site that I use, and you can see here that all of the information has been put in there. So you've got the name, you've got the elevation in both millimeters and clicks, and the same for the windage. And then in the notes you can see there the specs are from a Shibuya Artemis CPX. So whatever it is that you feel you need to put in there to help you remember what it is that you're using as far as your equipment is concerned. Then you have the bow setup. So once we go in there, again, it'll have generic compound and generic recurve. I edited the generic compound, but if you click the plus icon, you can put in everything about your bow. So the name, the type, the riser, and the limbs. And if we click on the one that I have already done, basically we've got Hoyt Proforce, the riser is the Proforce riser, limbs are Hoyt limbs, and it's got the Hyper ZT cams. Once you're happy with what you've entered there, just click the save icon on the top right there. So we'll go back out of that. Now we know that we have our bow set up and our sight set up, and you can set up multiple bows and sights in the program. Once we go into the bow setup icon, you can actually set up each bow that you use. So the bottom right sight icon, you can set up multiple sights, and the bottom left bow icon, you can set up multiple bows. Then when you go into the bow setup tab, you can make combinations of all of the equipment that you have according to how you've got them set up. So once again, you can press the plus icon and you can call the bow setup whatever it is you want to call it. Once you've done that, you can click on the sight and you can choose which sight you want to use, and then the bow, and you can choose which bow you want to use. Now you'll notice underneath that in setup that you can fill in many fields that are important to someone who takes their archery pretty seriously. It's good to keep a record of how your bow is set up so that if anything does happen and you need to put it back the way it was, or you make changes, you've always got a reference point as to where you started from. So you can put in the draw weight, the brace height, the draw length, what string you have, what sight extension index you're using, knock point height, tiller, peep, scope distance, everything and more that you'd need to know. Then of course you can also put in your stabilizer setup and any notes that you want to put in there as well. Once you're happy with that, click the save icon. I'm not going to do that now because I've already put a dummy one in here. And you'll notice this one is called Charles Target Bow. The sight is the Shibuya Artemis CPX. The bow is the Proforce. But I don't have anything else put in there at the moment because this is just for an example. So that's your bow setup covered. Then for quiver, this is basically where you put in the arrows that you want to use. Again, it comes up with generics that are built into the software, but I've already entered in my indoor arrows. So you can see here, the name of them is the X23s. You can put in whatever you want there. Manufacturer, type, spine, shaft length, point weight, diameter. Now the fields in red are mandatory. Everything else that's in here is basically just for your reference. Now you'll notice next to the save icon on the right at the top there, there's three little arrows. If we click on those, it'll give you the specs for each arrow in the quiver. There's nothing in there as far as the shots at the moment because I haven't used this quiver for any matches within this app. Once you click on an arrow, you can also basically put in the details for each one of those. The number on the arrow, whether it's a bare shaft or not. If the arrow becomes unusable, you can always retire it from the quiver by clicking the little box next to arrow is unusable. You can put in the knock color and of course the arrow weight as well. So you can really dial down and keep track of all of the specs of your equipment very, very well with this app. Now the next tab across is record, and this is basically where you record everything to do with your scores. You'll notice down the bottom there it says 24 in black and white, and that's how many arrows have been shot and recorded in this app up to date. Now I haven't actually used it to score anything properly. I've only put in some dummy scores in order to show you guys some of the features in the video. So on the bottom right hand icon, you can see it says Archery Timer, and if you click on that, you'll notice that it says prepare. Basically what it's doing here is it's about to start. If you click next, it'll do a 10-second countdown, and then it'll show you the time you have left to get all of the shots that you are shooting off. So 240 seconds to do your 6 shots, or whatever it is that you want to do. You can go into the settings icon on the top right there and set up anything you want as far as the timer is concerned. So you can go into each one of those and change them however you want them to be. Now on the bottom left, you've got site settings, and basically here you can put in your site marks for your site. So as you can see here, the equipment, the bow setup, we've got Charles target bow. Quiver is the generic small diameter arrows. When you click on any of those fields, you can select whatever it is you want to be setting up. So let's say I was using my target bow to shoot my X23s, and then I want to put in a sight setting. So then click the plus icon, and you can put in whatever you want here. So let's say I'm shooting at 20 meters, and my windage was at 0, but my elevation was at 22 clicks. 22.3 clicks, and then I save it. So now I know that my 20 meter setting with my Eastern X23s out of my target bow is 22.3 clicks, and so on and so forth. So it's a good way to keep a reference of your sight settings without having to carry around that laminated little piece of cardboard that all us target archers have in our pocket. Now the other thing that you've got here is the round and the match. Now, rounds have to be set up before a match for that particular round can be shot. So we'll go into the round icon first. I've already pre-set one up here. As you can see, we've got an Australian Outdoor Rules Melbourne setup. And once you go into it, you can change how many arrows you want to shoot per end and that sort of stuff. So we'll quickly run through adding in a match. Basically, you hit the plus sign. You can name the match whatever you want. So in this case, we'll just go practice. And then you can choose the equipment that you want to use. So we'll just go with whatever's default, Charles target bow and generic small diameter arrows. The format, you've got a whole bunch of associations to choose from when it comes to picking your format. So you can go through there and choose whatever's relevant to you. I'm just going to go Australian Outdoor. So once you've chosen your rule format, then you can go into round, and you can choose the round format that is relevant to whatever it is you're shooting under those rules. Then you can choose whether you're training, whether it's an actual competition, or whether you're tuning your bow. So after you've picked whether it's training, competition, or tuning, you've got 3 more options here. One of them is score only, which means you put in numbers rather than plotting each arrow on a target face. You've got auto create matches and auto create practice volume entry. The last things to enter in here is the location, the date that you're shooting, and then of course in the notes section you can add in anything else that you want to add. Once you're happy with all of that, click the save icon in the top right hand corner, and your match will be defined. So once you've set up your round, you can go into the match tab, and in here you will then notice that you have 2 entries for the match. The first one is where you can set how many arrows you want to shoot per end, but the top one is where you will actually be entering the scores for your match. The first tab here is Archery Timer, and remember, this is where you set your timer up earlier, but again, if you hit the settings tab, you can change all of that now for this particular match. The second one is input, and this is where you're actually going to be entering in your scores. And as you can see, I've already started doing that just to give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. The third one along is your scorecard, and as you can see, it shows you what your scores are. On the bottom there in the red, you'll notice as well that it gives you a skill level rating, an average for this match, how many hits and misses, how many 10s, how many X's you've hit, and a score as well. So the next one will show you how your arrows are grouping. You can check out all of the ends, or using the red symbols at the top there, you can go per end, and it gives you the rating per end as well. Now the reason why that one says infinity is because I didn't move the scoring icon from the very center of the target and did all 6 arrows there. Again, this was just as an example. Then it will show you each individual arrow and where that one was hitting as well. And it will show you each of your shots and how they were going as well. Now if we go back to input, basically if you want to input scores for an end, the bottom right icon is the green one with a play symbol in it. And basically you just hit that. It brings up this gray pointer and you can move it around to where you impacted with your arrow. Once you're happy with where you've positioned it, tap on that and then select the number of the arrow that you shot. Do the same for all the rest of them. Arrow number 4, 5, 6. Now you'll notice as well on the right hand side there are 2 other symbols. One of them looks like a sight scope with an exclamation point and the other one looks like an arrow with a question mark. Now these pop up throughout the match depending on how your arrows are performing. Now if we click on the arrow one first, you'll notice that this is called arrow advice. Now the arrow advisor can warn you during competition or training to check one of your arrows for damage because it is behaving inconsistently with the rest of the group. So that's kind of handy. If you're not paying super attention to where all of your arrows are going and you are plotting them in here, it will warn you when a particular arrow is not performing well. But again, you need to upgrade by spending some money to get that feature. Now the second one is the little scope housing, and if we click on that, it says the sight advice will give an accurate sight adjustment to get the group back to the center of the target. So basically if your arrows are grouping and they're not grouping anywhere near the center, that feature will actually give you the windage and elevation adjustment in order to move the arrow group to the center of the target according to the sight settings that you've put into the app. So once all of that's done, it'll basically give you a summary of the match, how you scored. So the final tab in the Artemis Lite app is the analysis tab, and in my opinion this type of app is all about the analysis because that's at the end of the day what it is that you're trying to do, because you want to know whether you're improving, what's working, what have you changed that made a positive or negative difference, and all of that. And all of that can be found within these icons, which are all grayed out with the premium badge. So basically at this point, if you want to make use of any of these features, you're going to have to spend some money. So multi-view is an analysis of different sets of recorded data on up to 6 different targets, and it is a premium feature. Recorded data can be filtered in many ways and displayed on multiple reference targets to compare group size and trends. So that's basically if you want to keep track of where all of your arrows are going. Then you have group view. This is an analysis of different sets of recorded data on a single target, and recorded data can be filtered in many different ways and displayed on a single target to compare groups and sizes. Then you have graph. Analysis of different sets of recorded data in a graph. Recorded data can be filtered in many different ways and displayed in different types of graphs. And then SAS, which is Chef's Arrow Selector, and this will select the best performing arrows based on the match you selected. You might want to use these arrows for elimination rounds or select the best shoot-off arrow. Upgrade to premium to use this feature. So that final one would be really handy because basically it can then show you which one of your arrows in any quiver is performing better than all the rest of them. And by knowing that, you can then use that arrow when it really, really counts. So there you have it. That's pretty much my quick review / how-to for the Artemis Lite app. Hopefully you found it useful. I know this video is starting to get a little bit long and I do apologize for that, but this app is full of features that do take a little bit of time to explain. If you found this useful or you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you have anybody else that you know that may be interested in this video, share it with them so that they can learn a thing or two as well. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching the video. Leave a like or a comment below. Remember to click on the subscribe icon if you haven't done so already, and click on the little bell icon so you receive a notification each time I upload a new video. I hope you all have a great week, and remember, just do good shots.